joined today by Ida Landry, Manager of Revenue Cycle Compliance for Adventist Health. Ida will be presenting on a panel discussion March 14th as part of our Revenue Integrity meeting on a panel dedicated to revenue cycle and revenue integrity compliance. Ida, thanks so much for joining us today.
Kate, thank you so much for having me.
If we could start, if you could share a little bit about how you got your start in healthcare, some of the roles that you've held so far and that you've enjoyed in your career to date.
Well, gosh, that's a great question. So, I actually accidentally got into healthcare. I was an admin at Nike, and I needed a second job, and I helped someone get a job at Nike, and she was so thankful. She was like, "How can I help you?" And I said, "You can't. I need a second job." And she came to my desk with a name and a phone number, and she said, "Call this lady." And I did. And the woman that answered the phone said, "Can you start tomorrow?" And it was, a part-time job. And I said, "Well, don't you need my resume, or don't you want an interview for me?" And she says, "You work for Nike. You work for Nike, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "That's a reputable company. Can you start tomorrow?" And that's literally how I got into healthcare. And that was on the payer side. So I processed very simple claims. Um, it actually paid a lot more than what my job at Nike was paying. So I asked her if I could, transition to full time, and she's really happy to have me do that. And so I went from paying claims to then going over to the hospital side of the organization, because it was a huge conglomerate that had not only uh, a payer insurance, but also it had hospitals and clinics. So I literally went from the hospital side to the clinic side and back and forth, just growing my knowledge in the revenue cycle and all the components that make up that revenue cycle, from admissions to the backside to claims and um, posting payments and billing. And then I went to a university hospital and learned to be a coder, and then worked for the DoD and was an auditor. So, my progression in on the revenue cycle really was really hands-on. And now I've been doing auditing since about 2005, and I manage a department within Adventist Health, that we do revenue cycle audits.
And what do you enjoy most about your current role at Adventist Health?
Every day is different. I think because revenue cycle integrity and compliance is just so broad, it's not just coding and documentation. It's also, was the insurance put in correctly to begin with? Was the authorization obtained? Was the ADN um, documented correctly? All the little minutiae of what it takes for the rev cycle. And then, inpatient, is the DRG correct? Was there an outlier? Was that appropriate? Was the documentation there? Um, Audits out, external audits are coming fast and furiously now. So, we need to be mindful of those and see if we can get ahead of those. But not only that, like, just where do our risks lie in regards to our rev cycle? Place of service is another one, because that potentially can drive payment.
There really are just so many complexities within the revenue cycle, and so many different pieces really have to line up in order for the payments to be received, for the patient to get the right care, not only the care, but the right payments, for their balance to be correct. There's just so many different parts, and it's really complex. And we've had such a great response to this compliance panel coming up on March 14th as part of the revenue integrity meeting that you'll be participating in. Could you share with us one aspect of compliance that you're looking forward to discussing either with the other panelists or together with the audience?
Sure. I think this one thing is on everybody's mind, and it is bringing in revenue and keeping it, right? And so I think that is going to be I believe the hottest topic of this panel. I wish I could, because compliance is so near and dear to me, and so money in my mind is just an afterthought. We really want to be mindful of the documentation and all the other elements that make up the ability to keep that money. So it is there, but I really try not to bring that front and center. But I think because of the pandemic and what has happened in the industry, it is affecting everybody, and so it really is a hot topic, regardless if you're in compliance or on the front lines or what have you. So that I think is really going to drive discussion, and it's going to be a really much needed discussion.
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to it, and we appreciate you participating in the panel and for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.